Hello and welcome to the Cheese Room podcast. This is Brendan, your host for the show. Joining me to have a quick look back on the Palace game and talk all things Spurs and Premier League. First up, it's Becky. How you doing, Becky?
I'm very well, thank you. Nice to be back on a Monday with all these Monday night games. It's over here. It's a bit rainy and autumnal today. I'm back at school today. We had half term last week. I know some people have got half term this week, but looking forward to this. Yeah.
Why is it? It's baking as ever in Brazil. Hence my constant sweating. I've opened the window though, so hopefully it won't be too shiny. Also joining Mr. Paul Muir. How you doing, Paul?
Yeah, good. Nice to be back on. Thanks for having me on. Top of the league. It's quite nice, isn't it?
It is. 2 points clear as well, and it's a good feeling. So let's just enjoy it. No pressure. No need to overanalyze. No need to say that. Well, let's just enjoy it. Enjoy the ride. Also joining from the US of A is Isaiah. How you doing, Isaiah?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Very well. So did you catch the game over there?
Yeah. Watched the whole thing. It was pretty good, but few talking points there for sure.
This is the first time I've podded with you. Is it Carolina, Southern Carolina that you're in? What state?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. Okay, so I got wrong. Is there a big rivalry between North and South? Did I really offend you there?
No, not really. There's a little bit with like college sports, but not a whole lot with not at the professional level, and there's not much of like a regional rivalry or anything.
Good. Fair enough. So let's get into it. Just again, a general sort of review of the game. Obviously, it's 2-1 win. Becky, your thoughts on? Let's just go through the game itself. The first half was a bit stodgy. It was a tough watch. Palace were well set up. There was a lot of tactical fouls, niggly fouls, a lot of Achilles rakes, which look really painful, and I think they are quite painful as well. But it just wasn't clicking for us. I think with Palace, with Elise and Eze out, I think they did set up defensively to stop us as opposed to try and play against us. And we do struggle sometimes with those sides. But what did you make of the first half against Palace?
Yeah, I agree. I think we always say Palace is one of those teams that we have a reasonably good record against, but you never sort of know how it's going to go, particularly when it's a night game and the atmosphere there. And I was straight on the WhatsApp group with my friends to say, this is what happens when you make teams play Monday and Friday, is that, as much as you think they've got time to rest and we're not in Europe, it's just a really quick turnaround for everybody. So, I think the first half was it was probably one of the poorer first halves we've had all season, which, the bar is so high now that it's quite rare to see that sort of play. But I think, you're quite right. You kind of knew what Palace were about. I did think, I was sort of saying this to Charlie. So my Charlie he's 15 and he's a referee, and try and kind of say to him that he doesn't like booking anybody. But I say to him that if you don't, you get to a point where you've kind of lost control of it. And I felt that the ref kind of did. Is that, you're right, that one on Van der Ven and Maddison had a few. It's just, if you don't sort of set the tone early with the bookings, those sort of fouls will continue and then somebody gets injured. And I just thought that it was Palace are there to frustrate us. I get that. But there were a few that I think he didn't really have overall control over it. I think we managed it well. I think I was pleased that Ange made changes at halftime because I didn't think particularly Davis did particularly well instead of Udogie. I thought Royal, when he came on, did really well actually. So I was pleased to see that because it's funny, in the past Davis has come in, he's been a squad player, but compared to Van der Ven now, he just looks so slow, and it was really quite obvious that he wasn't really handling it very well. So I think all in all, the first half was kind of as I expected. I've said quite a lot of times now that Vicario was making really decent saves when we're 0-0. He did that at United, I seem to remember. He did a couple at Liverpool. So he did it again, those saves that he made. I don't think we had any shots on target in the first half. Palace had those two chances, he saves them, and we're still in the game. And I think that's really reassuring because it's something for us to kind of build on.
Do you agree with that, Paul, about the ref, that he should have booked someone early on just to have a sort of stamp? Because I think it was literally the 95th minute when he first booked someone, because it got a bit rough when it got a bit frantic towards the end after their goal. Do you think that the ref did let too much slide? And do you like it when refs do that?
I like it when refs try and allow the game to flow. But there is a point, as Becky's just said there, where you have to show that you have to draw a line in the sand, basically, and didn't allow that. Some of those tackles were naughty. You know, that slightly lower, you're lacerating someone's Achilles, and that's serious. It's not a muscle; it's tendon, so it's really, really hard to grow back, basically. And I mean, that's a career ender for a lot of people as well. I thought we were very good. Obviously, you know, Palace without their two best players, we're always going to set up in a low block. Yeah, whatever you think about Roy and his coaching staff, they do set up really, really well. It was a horrible first half. It was just really, really frustrating. I can only echo what Becky was saying. We really miss Udogie, really miss Destiny. You know, the way we play now, we've evolved as a team beyond Davies now. He was just literally another body in midfield. I thought as well that if he can hit a ball, I thought he might be useful taking a shot outside the box, but obviously you've got to get near the box to take a shot, and he was never there. So I was glad that he got hooked at half time. But it was, I mean, it was the ref didn't help things. A lot of things being let go, and also we weren't really at the races for that first 45 minutes. It was a very poor first half from us.
Well, as like Becky said, Emerson Royale coming on did just kind of give us a bit of something different. I think, like we said, Davies has been a loyal servant to the club, but to play sort of the inverted fullback, it's not his game. It's not what he's been asked to do, something that he's not used to doing. But Emerson Royale coming on, and he's had his critics. I've got some comments which I'll bring up in a sec. But do you think that change just calmed the team down, made it allowed us to sort of play our game a bit better and get further up the pitch?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And, you know, when I saw the change, I was like, well, you know, I don't think Davies made any huge glaring errors, but just generally, it's not a position he can play in this system to great effectiveness at this point in his career. In particular, he's slowed down. And I think that maybe was the biggest change bringing on Emerson, was just he just has that freshness and the pace. He's not, you know, Van de Ven, but he has a lot more pace than Davies. And I think it just meant that in those moments of transition, we weren't caught out down that side quite as many times, even though he's playing on his offside. And I feel like I can't believe I'm saying this about Emerson. I just feel like he's a little bit calmer on the ball in midfield, which, you know, is a big deal for us with the fullbacks. And yeah, I agree. I think we definitely missed Udogie in terms of our overall game, because once Davies was trying to get into those advanced wide positions, not to much effect in the first half. And then Emerson wasn't so much in those advanced wide positions that Udogie can sometimes take up. And so we were still, with either player, we were missing quite a bit of what Udogie gives to the team. But I think Emerson, even being right-footed, is a much better option when Udogie is out than Davies. And I love Davies, but, you know, I just don't think he fits. I don't think he fits into the team anymore.
I think this is showing that we've always questioned our lack of depth, and that might trip us up this season in terms of going for top honours. But people like Royale, Højbjerg, Skip are getting minutes. But just on Royale, about his the comments he said about the criticism he's been receiving. He said, I've always been a guy with a lot of confidence in myself and my work. Whoever's watching don't know what I do every day. They don't watch my training. They don't know the work I do at home. They know who I am. They criticized me a lot, but I didn't listen. Obviously, there's no way I could escape it because it was in front of me on social media and in the stadium. But I knew my potential. I believe that in a situation like this, you have two options. Either you victimize yourself or you turn things around. I've always been the person to turn things around. Those are great comments, Paul, to show the character of Emerson Royale, that he's not a starter, but he is part of this team and getting minutes.
I think I read somewhere, or I saw somewhere, the 25 players that are on our which we give as a Premier League squad, everybody Bayer, Lloris and Dyer has got minutes already this season. So Royale will get minutes. I think Royale's been quite unlucky. I mean, he scored against Brentford. You know, he pinged in one from the outside, from the edge of the box, didn't he? And then Porro has come in. Now, probably talk about Porro in a little bit. I don't think Porro has looked that good in certain defensive aspects so far, but going back, we'll come to that in a minute. But to talk about Royale, I mean, to hear him say that, I mean, he was a boo boy. I mean, he was getting booed last season. There was the whole thing about how he went and got a hyperbaric chamber, which is a chamber which helps you recover because it gets more oxygenated blood into your body. He got a nutritionist, he got a trainer, he got a masseuse, and all these things. And he got pillared for that. But now he's turned it around. And when you hear comments like that, yes, I know we only hear kind of like the cream of those comments, and we only hear selective parts. But it shows what the guy's about, and he's definitely well liked within the squad. You can tell that, and Ange trusts him because he's got serious minutes, and really nice to hear that. Really, really nice.
Well, just going to the second half then, Becky. There was a sort of 25-minute period where we were on top. The goal obviously helped. With it being an own goal, is it Dan Ward? I think is his name, the Palace captain. Or did I get that wrong?
It's Ward. Joel Ward.
Yeah, sorry.
Joel.
I should know. But there was good movement in the build-up to that own goal. Yes, we've had a slice of luck there, but it did settle us. And I thought after we got that goal, it really did feel like we would go on and get a couple more.
Yeah, I think going back to what Paul just said, by bringing Royal on, the kind of it was more space and the kind of pace was there, and you could see that we were more kind of on the front foot, like I said, more that we were kind of used to this season. I think Maddison, he probably admit himself, it probably wasn't his best game of the season either. He was quite frustrated, but he was still getting kind of forward into those positions, and I seem to remember Sarr was getting in those positions, Kulusevski was, and Richarlison was kind of, it's funny to see lots of things about Richarlison, because Richarlison's got assists this season, you see. So playing on the left, he's there for his assists. So Maddison's kind of, trying to kind of work it back. And then, I think I watched it back a few times on Friday and was like, what was he really aiming for? Because was he aiming it for Son, or was he shooting? It was a bizarre sort of pass from Maddison. And then, the guy was completely in no man's land, wasn't he? But we definitely kind of built on from that. And I thought, we'll come on to it a bit later on, but our second goal for me is the best goal we've scored this season. But so in terms of it, kind of, that goal gave us the momentum. It kind of quieted Palace down a little bit. I think they had come for a draw, or they were hoping to just nick a 1-0. So that kind of deflated them a little bit. And then we just kind of kicked on. But the subs were made well. I thought the timings of the subs, even after Royal, were influential as well. And that kind of helped. And it's just so refreshing to have that from Ange.
Yeah, exactly. You're spot on there. That the subs, like he brought on Johnson for Richarlison. Richarlison had a good first half, I thought. Link up play was good, but Johnson coming on just added a bit more zip. And the goal, Paul, like Becky said, it was a beautifully worked ball, the crossfield ball from Sarr. And for me, what made it was the header, just the quick thinking because the Palace players weren't expecting that header, to put it into Maddison's path, then to run on to be able to pick up the ball from him to set up Son. It was just like Becky said, it was such a well-worked goal and thing of beauty.
It was. I agree with Becky. I think it's our best goal this season. We've scored some good ones, but I think that was a good one. The ball from Sarr. Sarr had a bit of a shocking first half, to be truthful. He turned it around in the second half. I thought he was very, very good second half. Crossfield ball, yeah, you're right. Johnson, that header was really, really nice, and obviously didn't just like stand there and admire it. He actually like powered forward and was really well composed to like knock it back inside for the goal. Yeah, it was lovely when you can see a team like mold itself together and score a goal like that. Because it's never good at 1-0, and it was good that we capitalized on just being a bit more direct. I say this a lot, is that I think sometimes our centre backs could ping it a little bit longer at times, like Sarr did with the crossfield, and I'd like to see us do that. And I think that probably took took Palace a little bit by surprise. And then Johnson coming on that was a lovely little cushion header, because when he was right on the byline, timed his jump, because if he didn't time it properly, he's either going to go over his head or he's going to he's not going to have control of it. Really nice goal. Let's hope we score a few more like that, because it's nice to see. It's really nice to see.
Isaiah, it does raise the question though, Richarlison. Does he do enough for you to warrant starting? Or do you think that, as we saw with Johnson when he came on, the impact that he had, the type of player that he is, do you think that it's time for Richarlison to hit the bench and maybe come on as an impact sub? Where are you on the Richarlison white elephant in the room?
I definitely think that it's time for Johnson to sort of be the person to lose that position. I think it's his spot to lose in the team, for me at least, because I think he's just a natural winger. When you watch Brennan Johnson play, he just plays like someone who was just born to be a winger, to attack from the wide areas, to combine with midfielders, to take on defenders. And he's got lots of pace, a lot more than Richarlison has. And I don't think Richarlison is a natural winger. I'm not sure he's a natural striker either. I'm not sure what his position is. I feel like he has, in most games I've watched him this season, I felt like he's shown a lot of qualities in terms of his positioning, and his passing has improved a lot. His first touch has improved a lot, but we're still talking about fundamentals. And yes, he's got a few assists, and I've praised him for that. And I think he's done well to sort of recover a little bit from how things had been going, so that he's not a complete, for lack of a better term, just a laughing stock around the league and around the fan base. But he's still not really impressing. And I mean, to his credit, if Ward doesn't knock that in his own net, it's probably heading right to him. But I don't have every confidence that, especially with the pace of that ball, that it ends up in the net if it does get to him.
Yeah.
And so for me, I don't know how Richarlison fits beyond, okay, we've been doing this for 60 minutes. It's not working. We're down a goal, or it's still, 0-0 or whatever. We need a goal. So we're going to go to a more traditional striker situation, and Richarlison comes in and Son goes to the left. I don't know where he even works for us as an impact sub with the other players that we have, even with Perisic and Solomon injured, with Hill on the bench. I don't see Richarlison as a significantly better option at the moment. I don't see what he gives us that Hill's quicker. He's got better footwork. He seems to deliver a better cross into the box. I just don't know where Richarlison fits right now, but I don't think it's in the first team, in the starting 11.
Because with that goal that he scored, wasn't it? It was from the corner from Perisic. So when was it the Sheffield United game, wasn't it? I think that header he made was from a Perisic cross, and we were all saying, "Oh, he's going to really kick on now, and he's going to be Richarlison and Perisic are going to be subbed on together." And of course, then Perisic goes and gets injured. I completely agree with Isai. There is this idea that he's busy on the left, and he's he has made some assists, but the impact that Johnson made was so immediate that I was like on, you go on various socials and everyone goes, wow, Richarlison's been huffing and puffing for 45, 50, 60 minutes and Johnson has immediately had an impact. And it made me think about when he played in the Arsenal game before he pulled his hamstring. Johnson nearly scored before we scored, I think. And, he was quite involved then as well. So you could see the potential that was going to happen with Johnson, even in that kind of early debut. So, you can see that there's this sort of more of a kind of progressive kind of hunger there from Johnson. And I think, I do think, I don't want to really get on top of Richarlison, but I do think he's got to kind of start stepping up because there's now too much competition. I think when people are injured, he's probably a bit safer. But like last year, he would come on and play, in sub positions. I think they were saying he was, he'd be subbed out for Son and that sort of thing. And what was interesting for me as well for Johnson is later on in the game is when he did bring Hill on, Johnson went on the right wing. So, Johnson is already a utility player that can be played in multiple positions. And that's the problem with Richarlison. He's not quite, as I said, not really kind of suiting any of the positions. And that's not going to help his confidence.
Exactly. Yeah, Paul, with that, Becky made the point about Perisic that when we don't have Perisic's ability to cross and we don't have a direct replacement for him, it nullifies Richarlison's sort of strength as that central guy, because Sonny, that's not his game. So, because I was thinking in January, there's the Asia Games, the Asia Cup, I think it is, that Sonny has to go for. So we're then looking at maybe putting Richarlison in central and having Johnson out wide. But again, it's going through, I think, the worst period in his career, Richarlison. And it's about how he responds to it. Where are you? I think you're not a huge fan of Richarlison, I think, is it?
I was surprised we got him last summer. I was very surprised. It felt like the money we were paying for him, we'd already spent what we're getting for Kane. Anyway, let's move on from that. Okay, so Fulham last Monday night, he worked really, really hard. You know, kept a real close eye on him, worked really hard. He'd done something really stupid. The ball bounced in front of him. He tried to control it with the back of his shoulder, and it bounced out. And everybody just turned on him where I sit. And I sit in quite I wouldn't say I sit in any kind of like, I sit in a nice part of the ground. And normally it's kind of quiet. Oh, Richie, what we've done. There was absolute pelters being thrown at him. And I just think that it looks like, it just looks like to me as if he's almost like the first little thing that goes wrong for him, he resigns to the fact that he's going to get hooked. He doesn't apply himself 100% all the time, in my opinion. Asia Games, Becky just said there that Johnson is a good utility player. He played across all three positions at Forest last year. I could see when Sonny's not, when Sonny's away on national and international duty, I can see Johnson going through the middle before Ricci. I think that pace, I think the crossing ability of, the assist ability of someone like a Maddison on the left, and then Kulusevski, when he learns to time the pass correctly, which is something we might come on to in a minute, he needs to release that ball a little bit quicker. But I can see Johnson going through the middle, and I don't know where that leaves Ricci during the Asia Games. I believe that if we didn't know about the issues off the field at the moment that he's going through, or he has gone through in the last couple of months, he'd be getting a lot more hassle than he is right now. I think people are giving him, quite correctly, a fair go. But patience we're not the most patient of fan bases, are we? Let's be honest. And I think, time is running out for Ricci. I do believe that. And I said this, and you know this, Brendan, he's not a wide left forward. He's through the middle. That's where he scored all his goals for Everton. It's where he plays for Brazil. But he's not going to be as a regular starter there for us. And I'm with us. I don't know where that leaves him now as well, because I can't see him getting a complete run of games when Son goes to the Asia Cup. I can't see it.
There's the thing with Richarlison. Obviously, me being in Brazil, I want all our Brazilians to do really well. We all want all our players to do well. But even the national team here, it's not clicking. They've got a sort of temporary manager in place who is also managing Flamengo, I think, in Rio. So he's a part-time caretaker manager, and it's not clicking. They lost 2-0 to Peru, I think, last time out. What was it? Or was it Uruguay?
It was Uruguay.
Was it Uruguay? Yeah. Brazil should still qualify for the World Cup, but they're just going through a really bad patch. And with Richarlison, the fact that he is starting for Brazil, you'd sort of think if it's not going well for him in the league, go away with Brazil for a bit, bang in a couple of goals, get that confidence back up, show your bones. But he's just, even for Brazil now, it's not clicking for him. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But in Ange we trust. One good, obviously very positive substitution to come on in that second half, Isaiah, was Bentancur, the return. It was great to see the scenes at the end of the game as well, where the players were sort of pushing out, and he looked very emotional, and of course 9 months out, who wouldn't be? But it was so good to see him back in a Spurs shirt, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's a huge sort of boost, because if we were playing poorly and the form was bad, you'd be excited to see him come back because maybe he can turn things around. But when you're already without him having played a single minute, when you've already gotten 26 out of 30 points, and now Bentancur comes into the team, we know how good he is. We know that he can fill in really any of those three positions in midfield. A little bit less the Madison role, but certainly Sarr and Basuma's role he can play. You just feel like it's a cherry on top, and a really high quality one, because his ability on the ball is at least as good as Basuma's, if not better. He probably poses a fair bit more of an attacking threat than Basuma, and as much as I like Sarr, his ability to carry the ball through the lines, in situations we've struggled with low blocks at times. The first half against Palace, a lot of the game against Sheffield, refereeing errors aside. Luton, yes, we were down to 10, but there has been some struggles with teams that defend deeper. And someone like him, who can be on the pitch with Basuma, to have both of those guys capable of taking on one or two defenders in midfield and breaking those lines. Our best 11 with him in it, you just start to wonder, what exactly stops them winning games. Obviously injury and everything, but when they're all fit, what stops them? It really is just sort of a huge boost to that confidence, because he can do so much on the ball.
And on that, Becky, what Isaiah said there about him coming back into a good team that's in form, I think that's important, in that it puts less pressure on him to sort of come back and deliver, because he was probably, obviously we had Kane, but last season before his injury, he was probably our best player. Again, you can sort of separate Kane from that, but for him to come back now, where we're playing really well, he'll get minutes. You can ease him back in. Certainly from that sort of injury, the ACL injury, that how the player returns is just as important as the recovery period. Because I think Ange was saying that he was banging on his door saying, "Play me, let me join full training." The docs would be around afterwards saying, "Nah, he's not ready."
Yeah.
So that, again, like I said, joining a team that's doing well just makes it so much easier for him, takes the pressure off, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think also most of us realise that, yes, like you said, apart from Kane, the drop off in our play when Bentancur got injured is very telling as well. I think we were kind of treading water, weren't we, in a lot of games all season, and then when he wasn't there, it just sort of capitulated. But I think you're right. What's interesting, I really like this way, is the way Sonny kind of pushed him forward to the away fans, is much like we talked about Richarlison and Richarlison doing that at Sheffield United, and they're very aware of kind of that kind of team sort of spirit element. And it was really nice to see Basuma hugging him, because arguably it's going to be Basuma, Sarr and Bentancur, isn't it? Kind of, grappling for those positions. So for Basuma to be really pleased that he's back, I think really shows that sort of, and I think I saw Romero saying something that, there's 30 of us, it's a squad of 30. And he's sort of trying to say that it isn't just the fixed 11. We're all kind of part of the jigsaw. And that's really nice to see, because like if some of them are tired, then they can take over. And you've got that, like you said, we've got that really kind of interlinking kind of system, which is actually quite hard to work out who is going to be instead of Bentancur, and that's quite nice to kind of to have those sorts of options. I think that, like you said, that means he can be eased in. Hopefully he'll be then really up to speed when we do lose players to the AFCON and the Asia Cup. So and suspensions, Basuma's going to get the fifth booking eventually, isn't he? So yeah. I think it's kind of really allows that to be something, but it can also be taken softly.
Mm-hmm. Paul, let's get on to just finish up the Palace game. Do you have anything to say about Bentancur before we move on to the Palace goal?
He's come back a lot quicker than I thought he would. I hope he comes back to being 95% of the player that he was before. I think, he obviously, I saw the interview you talk about there when he was banging, when Ange said he was banging on his door and asking him to, he wanted to join training and such. He's going to be crucial if he's the player that we know he is. And I think he touched the ball 3 times the other night, or even twice. I don't think he tried to tackle, and he seemed to move quite well around the pitch. But I mean, that's only for 4 or 5 minutes. When he's in there with a Liverpool midfield or a City midfield or someone like that, then we'll know if he's back. But yeah, I was made up to see him, and obviously, everybody, as Becky was saying, they're hugging him, and in front of the travelling away fans and stuff. It was a really, really nice. It was another really nice moment of many nice moments so far, and So where I went to the Leicester game and when he done his knee, and for where we are, I remember feeling that day to where I'm feeling now is completely different. Is amazing. It's night and day. I mean, it's really dark times. Like when we were at Leicester and he hobbles off and we get done 4-1, I think it was, or 4-0. I think it was. We got beat, and now look at us. Bentancur comes back, and we're a completely different team, different manager, different vibe, and that was what 8, 9, 10 months ago. It's amazing. So yeah, it's he's like a figurehead, isn't he? He's like what we were, the good parts of what we were before Ange, and now he's come back, and let's hope he can add to the team as and when he's needed.
Well, let's wrap up the Palace game. You mentioned earlier, Paul, I'll stick with you, about Pedro Porro. With their goal, we'll get onto the handball question. Do you think he could have done a bit more? Or is it just a case that he's probably a bit too short, that he didn't time his jump right? What, can you point the finger at Porro for that goal? Because it was a bloody good finish.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if the back spins off the ball by your left hand, you can really put your laces through it, can't you? Yeah, Pedro Porro. I think opposition analysts who come and see us know that we can try and isolate Porro in the air and try and play the ball over him into that half space behind him, because he's obviously going to be retreating, and Romero is going to not want to kind of come across out to the right. So I think some opposition scouts have seen that as a route. I think Burnley tried to do it earlier, and I think Company tried to do it earlier in the season as well. Porro jumps too early, and they score. He's obviously, we know what he gives us going forward. He's excellent at going forward. I just think defensively he's suspect, and if I could like put both of like Royal and Porro together, take Royal's defensive kind of like qualities and Porro's offensive qualities, that'd be ideal. But I think as much as like we are flying at the moment, and now we're becoming quite critical about some play. Well, I am. I think Porro defensively can be got at, and that's slightly worrying in my aspect. I think he was at fault for the goal. Yeah.
Do you agree with that, Becky?
Yeah, I think for all of his kind of passion, like I remember I've seen something when we scored the second goal, and he turns to the away fans, he's on his knees and he's like fist pumping. For all of that, yeah, he is a little bit kind of like chaotic when it kind of comes to the sort of defensive element. And yeah, I think I seem to remember there was one at Liverpool as well, and I think there's a few where he's done it and then he's gone sorry. And obviously he's still learning, and he's another one a bit like Davis. He's kind of in a different position this year, and he was had to be a wing back last year, and now he's not, and he's an inverted fullback. And yeah, so I think we are. I keep coming back to the same thing. We're not really kind of putting the foot down. Really, we've still got gears to go through. So there are still elements within our game that do need to improve, and I think even Ange would say the same thing. Which is why none of us are getting ahead of ourselves. But yeah, I think when you hear interviews with Porro, he says, I'm still learning. I want to learn more, and I want to keep going. And it helps that he's got Romero and Van de Ven next to him, and that kind of that continuity, I think, is helping. If we had interchanging defenders all the time because of injuries or suspensions like we had last year, I think that would have been worse. Because I still remember the first game, was it when Porro played next to Sanchez? That might have even been the Leicester game, and it was just carnage. So it's that stability, I think, does help. But yeah, you're quite right that he's got to take his kind of responsibility for it. But then harping back to was it the Luton game when he managed to get a goal kick, wasn't it, or a corner, and he celebrated like it was a goal. So he's really keen to do the right things. It's just sometimes it's a bit rough around the edges at the moment.
Yeah, he strikes me as a competitor. Like he's really he's in the zone. He's like it's a picture of him with his giant teeth. I want his dentist contact because his giant shiny teeth. I think again, he's an athlete as well. He's a competitor, so I think he's got the sort of attributes as a person to deliver. But again, they almost scored. We'll go on to the handball now, but there was a period like they almost equalised right at the end. But he did get across. Again, they were targeting him with that ball of the space behind him because I think he's got a bit of the Eric Dyers in terms of his spatial awareness, that he's not quite sure what's over his shoulder, and this, with fast players, they'll catch him out. But Isaiah, I'll come to you. Was it a handball or was it not a handball goal for you?
I mean, you know, not to steal a quote from Ange, but I don't know. I don't know what a handball is anymore. I would say if you control the ball with your left hand and that's the way you bring it down to your feet, generally I would assume that's going to be a handball and the goal is going to be disallowed. I wouldn't think that you could literally bring the ball down out of the air with your hand, score a goal in that stand. But I don't know. I don't know anymore. Does it, you know, are the rules identical for defenders and attackers, or are they not? I mean, there really is no clarity because there's no consistency. It's a different standard every game, sometimes more than one standard within the same game. So who knows? Who knows if it's a handball or not?
Didn't Carragher said in commentary that, because then I think because of the whole Liverpool offside thing, I've noticed in some of the games that they've been commentating on, they're almost being kind of advised to share the commentary that they hear, because the commentators, they hear the VAR conversations, don't they? And it's just interesting. There's been 2 games since where that they've made a point of going, we're just going to share with the viewers, this is what the VAR said. And Carragher went, I think it's important that we should share that they said there possibly is a handball, but it's not conclusive enough. And you're like, it's either is a handball or it isn't. So that's where this kind of corrupt sort of idea or this inconsistency comes from. It's like, if it is handball and you've noticed it's handball, then it's handball. You can't say, oh yeah, well, it might be handball, but you know, we're just going to play on anyway, or there wasn't an obvious error. And that's the bit that's open to interpretation that's frustrating. And I love the fact that there's shots of Maddison in the dugout and he's doing this, and we're like, oh, he's fully Spurs already. He's panicking. And then he goes to the ref at the end and says, if that's happening, he kind of motions that sort of, like you said, where he's kind of dropping it. It's like, it's handball, and you know, you slow it down, and it's all just every time there's a goal now, it does have that sort of, well, let's wait to sort of celebrate properly, particularly if you're watching it on TV, because obviously we see the VARs, whereas you're in the stadium, you just see VAR go up in purple, but you don't see anything of it. Is that you kind of like, yeah, you know, and even the commentators have started going, well, I don't think it's going to be offside, or it should, you know, in my opinion, it's not offside, because they even don't know, because they don't know what's going to get given. That consistency of it is all over the place. Luckily, it didn't make any difference.
Well, yeah, that was the thing. That luckily, thankfully, it didn't, and maybe other seasons it would have with us. But we seem to see out games a lot better this season than others. But Paul, JP on the review pod that was out this weekend, do check it out wherever you get your podcast. He said that he was glad that it wasn't given as handball. If it was given against us, that we would be annoyed. And again, he can't remove his arm. His arm is where it is. It is beside his body. He doesn't move his arm to control the ball, because it hits his chest. Then it does look like it grazes his arm, and does he move his arm out the way to sort of not? It's a weird one. I thought it was handball. The Brazilian commentary was certain it was handball. They were so amazed it wasn't ruled out by VAR. But do you agree with JP a little bit in the? It's a weird one, isn't it?
No, I don't agree with JP. I think if the ball doesn't hit Ayew's hand, it goes off to the left, and Ayew has to go and fetch it, and then obviously Porro can recover and put a block in. The hand, the ball deviates. You can see the spin on the ball, and it kind of deadens the ball, and it drops really, really, really nicely for him. If it doesn't hit his hand, it goes off to his left a little bit, you know, and he has to go, as I say, has to go and readjust his body position, and that gives Porro half a second or a second to get back in and defend. So no, sorry, JP, if you're watching, probably aren't, because it's early in Australia, but I don't agree with you, no. And I would fully expect if Kulusevski had done that, or I don't know, Brian Hill or a Son had done that, or a Richarlison, then if that was given against us, I would be like, okay, yeah, that's handball. I wouldn't be saying, hang on a minute, you know, it hardly moved or it didn't deviate. It ball to hand, He's come a long way. It's dropped. It's altered the trajectory of the ball. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's foul play. Blow up. Free kick. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, like Becky said, it didn't matter in the end. Thankfully, we did get the 3 points, which took us 5 points clear on Friday, which is now reduced to 2. We did see a message come up from Paddy. Hi, Paddy, in Limerick, from Limerick Spurs. The question for the panel: could we? But again, that's the running joke. But Becky, realistically, we're in a really strong position, and if we do, and we've had a fair bit of luck thus far, if we continue with that luck and strengthen in January, where realistically do you see us finishing? Is it now top 4, top 3, perhaps? Where do you see us finishing?
It's funny because I watched City yesterday, and it was like men against boys against United, and City tend to kind of start more slowly and then really get going, don't they? So I don't see us winning it. You can't seem to kind of shake Arsenal off. They they were quite dominant against Forest. I watched that game as well. I think for me, November and December's fixtures are tricky. I don't feel we've had easy fixtures so far, but they are tricky. We've got Newcastle, we've got City, we've got West Ham, Chelsea. There are some fixtures that in the past we've struggled with, let's just say. Again, if we come through those and then we do strengthen in January, then really it is something that we can do. It's ours to lose. And what's really lovely at the moment is I think even down as far as Villa, they've all got 20 points or something, and that's never happened so far after 10 games, I think I read somewhere. So the kind of almost like we've got the World Cup last year seemed to sort of really kind of affect clubs. We've got back to those sort of stronger teams doing well and showing what they're about, and we're getting this sort of strength in depth rather than just sort of City eventually just sort of overtaking whoever's at the top. So that's quite promising. I do think Ange knows enough about the squad, and provided we don't get some horrific injuries, that he's going to know enough about his squad and what his squad wants to kind of see the season through. Because, of course, he has done this before. He's won leagues with teams before. This is not necessarily something new to him. It's just new to him in the Premier League. So I have every faith in him. We do need to make some, we need another centre-back, because Sanchez went, and then I think they wanted players to come in, didn't quite come about. So I'm hoping that that's sort of already in the process. And then, we do really kick on. I think, we're scoring lots. We're not conceding many. The recipe for all the things that we need are there. It's just, can we keep going? And obviously, at the moment, we're all just enjoying playing football. I still keep seeing things like, we had a good start last season, and we've got similar things to last season. It just feels completely different. Everything is just so much more positive. There's so much positivity around everything around Tottenham. So, in answer to your question, I don't think we'll win the league, but I do think we will get top 3.
Which is an incredible result still. Like, I think, again, like you said, that we are Spurs fans. We're realistic, and we're just enjoying where we are right now. But and not having Europe is a massive help. Just to have them there all week to train, get on the training pitch. Obviously, reduction in chance of injury as well with fewer games. So we're well set to get top 4. Isaiah, are you dreaming bigger than that, or are you being sort of the regular sort of Spurs realist?
Oh yeah, I'm always going to be on the realist side of things, and for me, and I know Becky mentioned this, but we're 3 points further on than we were last season after this number of games. 3 points different. And I understand all of the other things that are massively different and the different feel and everything like that. But it does show you kind of how quickly things can take a turn for the worse. And I'm not saying that it's going to devolve like it did with Conte, but it does sort of remind you that, this is still a very small sample size. And in terms of talking about winning the league, where in this era of the Premier League, you have to be close to perfect throughout the season to do that. I mean, there's been a few seasons where the point totals have been lower, but, with City and Liverpool for all those years getting into 99, 100 points territory, you have to be so good for so long. And looking at our squad between now and January, if we lose Van de Ven or Romero, either one of them for any extended period, we're in trouble, big trouble. I mean, if Van de Ven is out, is it Dyer? Is it this Phillips kid who's never played in the Premier League before? Is it Davies? I mean, who comes in to play that left center back? Same goes for Romero. Is it Emerson? Is it Dyer? So, if we can strengthen in January and most crucially get another center back that's ready to play now, someone, we can't necessarily hope for quite as big of a home run as Van de Ven, but someone, who is ready about as immediately as Van de Ven was ready to come into the team, so that when that inevitable injury comes, we are more prepared for it. And I think, there's a few other players that could be positions that could be strengthened in terms of depth, right back being one of them, and left back as well. Actually, both fullback spots could probably be strengthened with a little bit more depth. And I think if we can do something close to that, we're looking at a real prospect for a top 3 finish, and not, maybe 25 at third, but 25 points behind City, who've won the league, but much closer in that category to the actual top spot. It's almost unfortunate that we are likely to get European football next season, because it would almost be the perfect season in Ange's second season to only have 1 game a week to try to challenge for the title. But it does feel a bit early in the process for a real title charge.
Yeah, Paul, Ange's always said this, that judge me by my second season. And if his first season is anything to go by, we really have got something to look forward to next season. Do you think that this is, for the top honour, the league and stuff, that this is just too soon? Our squad isn't ready for challenging.
The squad's not. It's not there. I also watched City yesterday, just like Becky did, and just looking at their bench was like, yeah, that's how you win the league. What I will say is, I'm having a quick look at the table now. We're on 26 points, and Newcastle in 6 are on 17.
Yeah.
So they're 9 points behind us already, right? So that's 3 wins. Also, Newcastle, Brighton, and West Ham all lost in Europe last week as well. So already now we're seeing a gap between us and our perceived kind of like our competition, 9 points. If you look at that, we could afford to lose 3. I know I'm not being negative, but we could afford to lose 3 games and we still be 3rd, 4th, 5th. Okay, which, considering where we were when Conte left the scorched earth policy after Southampton, is amazing. Okay, I can see us getting top 4. With some luck. I know somebody in the chat was thinking you need some luck. We do. We need Maddison to stay fit, or we need Lo Celso to really freaking step up. We need that as well. We know we're going to come on to centre back partnership in a minute, but we need to keep both those guys literally in cotton wool, especially Van de Ven, because no one, I mean, to have that pace. I mean, I think it was the gingerhead, like really annoying midfielder who was like 3 or 4 meters in front of him at Palace, and Van de Ven just like, it wasn't even funny. Within 3 paces he was next to the guy, and to have that amount of confidence with your back door being closed with that pace is amazing. That's why I think we will get top 3, top 4 if we keep key members fit. I mean, that's stating the obvious, but looking at the table now and look at the gaps where they are, I think if we can afford to lose 2 or 3 games to like the good teams, City, etc. Yeah, I think 3rd or 4th is definitely achievable, especially with the other teams with Europe. Newcastle want to go deep into Europe as well. I can't see Emre and Villa carrying on how they're going. I just think they're really punching above their weight right now. Some would say we're doing that as well, but hey, I don't matter. I'm not a Villa fan. I'm a Tottenham fan, so sue me. But 3rd or 4th definitely. We won't win the league though, unfortunately. No.
Yeah, like I said, it's probably too. We can dream. There's people in the chat are annoyed that we're being negative. We're being realistic. We are where we are. It's a great position to be in. What I love is what I heard yesterday, that this is Arsenal's best start in 16 years, and they're still behind us. They're stuck on those bums. So it is a great time. So let's enjoy it. Let's enjoy the ride. But like we've all said, it depends on January and we do need luck in terms of injuries. Becky, looking at the back four, we just spoke about Van der Ven and Romero. Do you think at the moment that they are the strongest centre-back pairing in the league?
Yeah, I would think so. I know, and kind of including Vicario in that, isn't it, in terms of his save percentage and his kind of the shots that he's and the clean sheets that he's having. I think one of the disappointing things for me on Friday is that he didn't get his clean sheet. But yeah, those of us that watched the Palace game, I just thought the whole Romero back to Vicario thing was just hilarious. I know it's not necessarily Palace pressing, but it was just such fun. And I was like, we're going to carry on. And that's the sort of thing Romero would absolutely love as well. And then to find out that it was a Premier League record, these 141 passes, that they weren't all to Vicario, but it felt like that they were. Yeah, I think, like I said, it's the bond and the kind of the pairing between the two of them. I think, obviously Van der Ven is still so new, isn't he, and so raw, but he's just taken to everything so well. And I tweeted on Friday that he's just so rapid. There's been a few times this season where he's chased people down, but it just seems really obvious 2 or 3 times on Friday. So, yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, they complement each other, I think. Like, as Romero's the sort of aggressive one that will jump in, and Van der Ven's the one that allows us to play sort of 30, 40 metres further up the pitch than we did last season because of that recovery pace. So he's hugely important in not just his ability, but just in his what he brings to the team and in allowing us to play the way that Ange wants. So I think I've heard today on a podcast, that Ange interviews every single new player to make sure that they're the right type of person as well. And Van der Ven, again, he's brought in so much personality to the team and added to that togetherness. So we nearly be going for an hour now, but there's a couple more questions here. Looking ahead to Chelsea, Becky and Paul, are you both going?
No, yeah. I'm not there. I was there at Fulham because Fulham was my half term, but no, I can't make a Monday.
Okay, well, Paul, I'll go to you then. Do you think Poch will get booed, and will you boo Poch?
Do I think Poch will get booed? Yes, unfortunately. Will I boo Poch? No.
Even though he's Chelsea manager.
Yeah, I know Chelsea don't like us. I've had my share of problems at Stamford Bridge. I'm not really I'm not really kind of like one person to step backwards, really. And I've had some problems there at Fulham Broadway. It's not a very nice fan base. He's too nice for them to straight away. But we are where we are, and we've had some great times because of Poch. And just because he's gone to another club doesn't really taint that for me. So I think he'll get a bit of stick. But I personally won't boo him. No.
Yeah, see, I agree with that. If I was there, I wouldn't. But I don't know why everyone's making such a big deal of it. It's not like when they announce the players. So, like, even at the Fulham game, Coity will say, let's have a welcome back Tottenham Vicario, Vinicius, and then people clap. It's not like he's going to say, can we have a welcome back to Pochettino? You don't really announce the manager. So when is the pertinent point that people are going to boo him anyway? So, and there might be people behind the dugout that might shout things at him, but as a kind of collective in the stadium, there isn't going to be a point where it's like, oh, this is where we boo and this is where we clap. So I don't really see why. I think people are making a lot more of it than it is. I agree with exactly what Paul says. I think he's too nice for them, and he knows what they're like and the things that they say about us and the songs that they sing, and he knows that. He's not that naive. Which is why people say, he needed a job and Chelsea gave him a job. Yeah, you don't always necessarily have to go to just because someone's offered you a job. So there is a little bit in that. But, I just think it is what it is. Yes, if you're going to clap, fine, no issue. If you're going to boo, again, no issue. But what we need to do, and those that are in the stadium, is just sing for Ange. And I do think that once the trumpet's done and they've kicked off, it will be the Ange Postecoglou song that will probably drown anything out anyway. So these people who are trying to get a song going against Poch, it won't work because the Ange ones and the songs for the players will just drown it all out. So the atmosphere is going to be white hot. I think Spurs will really kind of feed off that. but I just don't really think it will be about Poch. You know, the media will make a big thing of it and the TV will, but actually being there won't be a point where you'll go, oh, this is the point. I just don't get it really.
You're right. Yeah, that's true. There's no real announcement of the manager. It's just the players. And obviously when Sol Campbell came back, I was there for his first game for Arsenal, and just rightly so gave it to him because of what he went. With Poch, it's slightly different in that he didn't go directly to one of our rivals when he was at the peak of his powers. He went to PSG for a bit, had a sabbatical, and like you said, got a job offer at Chelsea. He knew. And would you turn it down? A big club like Chelsea, would you turn it down? But he, like you said about the rivalry, he was there at the Battle of the Bridge. He knows what they say about us. He knows the rivalry, but it's not Arsenal. So we've got to give him that a bit as well. Isaiah, has it been covered at all in the States yet about the return of Poch to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium?
I don't know. I don't. I get my, having lived in England 3 years, all the accounts I follow for football news are English or otherwise, at least European and British. But in terms of the the attitude towards him, I kind of echo what other people have said. I don't really care what you do, boo, clap. If there's a time where that becomes an actual decision, do whatever you want. To me, it's the same as booing a player who's gone down and feigned injury, as if your players don't go down and feign injury. It's just part of the atmosphere. He used to be here, now he's at a rival, so some people are going to boo. And I don't like that he took the job at Chelsea, but at the same time, reports were he was waiting by the phone for the call from Spurs, and it never came. So, eventually he's going to take another job, and he's going to take a job that's in a league that he has unfinished business in, and with a club with a lot of money to spend and give him some control over the targets like he didn't have at Spurs. I mean, from his logical standpoint, it makes sense. And I think a really strong anti-Poch attitude is kind of pointless at this point. We've got Ange, sing for Ange, like Becky said, and that'll tell Pochettino all he needs to know.
Well, Paul, going on to Chelsea and their current form, obviously we know they lost 2-0 to Brentford at home. Yeah. I love this stat that Brentford have won more games at Stamford Bridge since April than Chelsea have, which is beautiful. But there are players to worry about. I think their stats belie their results. I think they've been playing well. They've just not been getting the goals. I don't know if Jackson is cut out for the Premier League just yet. There's a lot to his game. I think Alan Shearer gave an analysis of his runs and stuff, and it was pointed out. Look, he'd only played 15 top flight games before Chelsea bought him. So where is he supposed to develop these skills? They had Madueke and Sterling on the wings with Palmer playing in the number 10 role behind Jackson. Who's the danger man for you? Where do you see the game won and lost from Chelsea's side?
I think we talked about it already. I think they'll attack Porro. I think Cole Palmer or Sterling will go straight up against Porro and try and push him back. I watched a little bit of the Brentford game. I keep hearing this kind of like, the Chelsea XG is slightly below us, or I think we're number 1 and they're number 2, or it might be the other way around. I can't remember. But they haven't got a striker to score. They can't defend. I mean, both the goals that Brentford scored, was awful defending. I watched the 2-2 draw with Arsenal when they were 2-0 up and cruising, absolutely cruising with 75 minutes gone, and they blew that to 2-2 as well. They're brittle, but they've got this kid they've got from City, Cole Palmer, looks, I watched him a little bit under 21 level for England. He looks very, very good as well. I think I believe that we could probably get their centre backs as well. I think Thiago is looking his age now. I don't. Gallagher is busy in the middle. Conor Gallagher is busy. He breaks forward from the 8 position as well. But considering like their midfield is probably been bought for 4 times what our midfield was bought, but it's nowhere as good. The balance we've got in our midfield certainly outweighs them, but I can just see them on the wings, Palmer or Sterling, causing some problems, and maybe a free kick from outside the box. We know that that they've got one or two. Enzo can hit a ball as well, the Argentinian. So I'm really looking forward to the game. I'm looking forward to the atmosphere because I despise Chelsea with quite vehemently for many reasons, and I'm hoping that we give them a hiding, and I think we will win. I think we will win. It'll be interesting. It will be interesting. We need a Dogie back. We need Destiny back. If we go with our first 11 with Johnson instead of Richie, we'll do it. We'll be fine. We'll win. Chelsea are nowhere near our level right now. But on the day, we don't know. Maybe Pop's going to give them the talking to of a lifetime, and they'll come out and they'll compete. We don't know, but I think we've definitely got enough of our first 11 to win and win quite well. It should be interesting though. It'll be a good game.
Yes, it will. 106 people watching. Please do hit that like. I didn't say it earlier because I don't do many YouTubes, so please hit the like. It supports the channel. And it takes about a second. Becky, let's get your predictions then. Do you think we'll do Chelsea on Monday?
It's very similar to Paul, really. I think I would like to see Johnson play instead of Richarlison. But I think the atmosphere is going to be really, really great. It's just we normally go into Chelsea games thinking we aren't going to get anything against them. And then when we beat them 2-0 last time out, it was amazing, and we made Chelsea look incredibly ordinary. I think with our strongest 11, we do have areas where we can really punish them. It's just whether things don't quite kind of come off, or obviously the good thing about it is that they play in the week and we don't, and then we played on Friday and then we're playing again a week on Monday, so there is time. But yeah, I think a sneaky 1-0. I think going back to what I said before, I think if Vicario plays well, makes some really good saves, that will calm everybody down. That will kind of help the crowd. I think it's a very similar to what I said about the Liverpool game. I just don't want it to be about some dodgy VARs, because we can kind of go back. Almost every goal we've conceded this season has come from something reasonably dodgy, and that includes even Palace with the handball. So we haven't had any worldies against us. So we haven't had a penalty yet. We haven't scored a free kick yet. Someone put in the chat earlier about, I saw it as well, when Basuma took the free kick, the look that Madison gave him was hilarious. But yeah, so I will be watching it, kind of almost sort of through my hands. But I'm hoping if we start well, we could probably kick on and score quite a few. We just don't, I think if it's like, if we concede early, it'll be interesting to see what we've got about us. I'm hoping that we you always a bit like the Sheffield United games, Liverpool games. You feel that we could always keep going and keep going and keep going. So last season we wouldn't have really felt that. So there is that. In terms of prediction, I'm very hopeful that we will win, but I think it will be by 1 goal.
Okay, so 1-0 or 2-1, or do you think we'll concede?
I think we might concede. I'll say 2-1.
Okay. Yeah, I think I like that. I think Chelsea, their home form has been their key issue, and like I think Paul said, their defense, like Thiago Silva is 40 soon. Levi Colwill's good, but he's almost the opposite. He's almost too young to sort of be a pillar in a top Premier League defense. I think Mudryk might still be injured. I'm not sure. He didn't feature on the bench either for Chelsea against Brentford. But as I said, Cole Palmer, I think they paid quite high for him as well. They paid up over 40 million for him, which for an academy player that played once or twice for the first team was a huge amount. So they obviously did their scouting there. So I'll agree with Becky. I'll say 2-1. Isaiah, how do you think it will go, and what do you think your prediction of the score will be?
Well, if it were any other sort of former superstar that was their main man. Besides Sterling, I might be a little more confident than I am. I mean, I do think he'll win the game, but Sterling loves it against us, and I can just see him having a really, really excellent night. The key is going to be that as much as he loves playing against Spurs, he's not a great finisher, and there aren't a whole lot of great finishers around him in that team. There aren't really any great finishers in that team. I think it'll be in terms of chances, I think it'll be a bit of a slugfest. I mean, it'll be end-to-end for probably the early stages, because I do think Pochettino will want them to come out firing really early, try to overwhelm Spurs, because we've had some slow starts this season, quite a few actually. And he'll want to come out and try to overwhelm Spurs and really take the game to us early, shake the mentality, that sort of thing. But I think Chelsea will miss some chances. We'll miss or score some chances in the early stages. But if it's 0-0 through those sort of end-to-end times, I think we'll really come to control the game, because like's been said, our midfield is miles beyond theirs. I do rate Enzo, and I think Caicedo is a good player as well, but they don't look like a unit. They're not as good as the players that we have in those positions, and I just don't see them being able to cope defensively or on the ball with what our midfield can do. And while they've not conceded many goals, they're not scoring, and we are. And I think we'll have at least 2 or 3 goals in the game, and I can't see them getting more than 1. So I would go 2-1 or 3-1.
Cool. There's a lot of confidence in the chat as well. Thank you for your predictions in the chat. Any more will stick up. Paul, what do you think the score will be? Will be cheering on a win?
I think it could be quite high. I think
Wow.
I do, and I think it'll be the end of pot, which is quite ironic with Chelsea. I can see us going 3-1. I'm with Becky. I think unfortunately they will score, but I can see us putting 3 or 4 past them, which would be absolutely glorious. And I remember Lampard coming to the new stadium, and where I sit, I'm about 50 meters away from the away fans, and he came over from the benches directly opposite me, and he was just like pumping his chest and kissing the badge as the manager, and I sat there, and I was just like, I wasn't crying, but I was angry, and I was like it was cold as well, and it was just like, oh. And it stays with me that when he came across, and and they're all dancing in front of the away fans. So it would be nice to really kind of like do a number on them. Really, I can see us doing like 3 or 4, definitely, and then I think that will be the end of pot, because I just don't think that anybody could work under Bowley at Stamford Bridge. I think it's where, if you're a decent coach or a manager, and Pog is a decent coach and manager, it's where you go to for your career to die, Stamford Bridge. So yeah, 3-1 or 4-1. Potter. The stuff Potter was playing at Brighton was not revolutionary, but it was beautiful. It was the early part of Bloom and what he was doing with data analysis. And Potter learned his career at Swansea, started in the 5th tier, went over to like Scandinavia, came over, Potter. Then that was just a job too far, and it was like all his ingredients, go and like make me some Michelin star food, and he just didn't have the skills because there was just too many egos. And I think unfortunately Poch's the same. I don't think he'll get time, and I think if we beat them well, which I think we will, then he'll be gone, and that would be quite ironic, wouldn't it? But there you go.
Yeah, so just put in the comments, is losing his job twice at Spurs, which would be great to see.
Yeah, that's the point I was trying to make. Yeah, MS, that's the point I was trying to make.
They've got a real tough run of fixtures as well, I think. That's why they were saying about Brentford, is that Brentford was arguably their last easy game for about 6 games. So it'd be interesting to see what happens, really.
They're 11th. Yeah. They've only got 12 points. They are 11th. I mean, like Brentford, West Ham, Man U, Brighton, Newcastle, Villa, Liverpool, City, Arsenal, and us are all above them. He's under it. I mean, they're on the same points as like Palace and Fulham. It's not working for him there. And if we beat him and beat him well, he's gone. As far as I'm concerned. unfortunately.
Wow. Another stroll against the mid-table team. That'll be our third in a row after Fulham and Palace. Bring it on. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining. People watching, thank you again. Please do hit the like if you haven't already. Do look out for the Wednesday show from Gibbo and the guys. There will also be a Friday show from Caller, so plenty of shows coming out. We're getting the podcast out as well for those who like their Spurs in an audio way. But everybody, thank you for joining. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Isaiah. And keep the faith. And as ever, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, Spurs.
Bye.